let's get started, shall we? Wow, this is quite loud. I've just realised I didn't have the sound on anyway, so...
I want tasers on full charge.
Cool. So yeah, I'm going to turn the volume down just a tad, because I've forgot that I've got it on 10, and usually most of my games are fine sitting on like 3 or 4. If that ends up being too quiet, just let me know.
Sorry, there's no way to get up to the raptor pen until the new generator gets unpacked and built.
Whew. How about that temperature, huh? I am so glad we got Hammond to put free ice pops into our employment contract.
So yeah, so Lego Jurassic World, this was my first ever title upon entering the games industry. I wasn't on for a large amount of this game. It had already, I think they'd just gone gold shortly after shortly before I joined. Sorry. So my work was mostly on patchwork rather than on features. But it was still interesting to get. Is that gonna? No, it doesn't destroy on contact. One thing that's going to be weird though is this game is going to feel very slow and very clunky compared to the other games, because we generally increase the combat speed as the titles went along. But we'll see. I didn't want to do that. What's that little circle that's appearing there? Oh well.
Yeah, this is good coffee. It almost makes up for the danger and humidity. Will we swing it all the way for you? Better Danishes.
So I'm guessing I'm gonna have to smash that. Yep, and build this. Oh man, this is so Jurassic World was, at least in terms of fusion games, Jurassic World was the last game to use the old way of building, the old sort of setup for building props. Now, I'll try and get to it when we see another building opportunity. I'll talk about it, and it's also using quite a lot of older UI as well.
By the way, whatever you do, don't try licking the ends of these things.
Tasers on full charge.
Oh, we already had that line, but okay.
Come on, who tore up the cage track? I tell you that raptor ain't...
So the UI you can see here, it's much more sort of static and probably familiar with a lot of maybe the older TT games and some of the Knutsford games that would continue to come out after LEGO Star Wars. But because LEGO Star Wars was our first attempt to really try and go a bit further with the UI. So for the longest time, the UI in TT games is just is effectively just drawing some textures to the screen. It wasn't very fancy at all. And then TT Fusion, when they started working on Lego City, came up with a new way of doing the UI, which was, I think, based actually off of their oh, I need a crowbar for that. Off of their handheld games UI. Now they gave it to I think the programmer they gave it to, it was his first time in the industry. It was his first job, and he was basically just told, "Yep, just port this UI system across and get it all up and running." So, and he did a good job, and it would inform the sort of the UI moving forward for a while. But one of the problems is that I think due to time constraints, is that all the UI was globally instanced. It was loaded globally, and you couldn't actually instance it. You could just only access the sort of the pre-instanced, always in memory UI instances. So it meant it was quite expensive to actually use this UI. Like Star Wars was an attempt to try and make an entire Lego games UI based on this new system, but in the end it was just impossible. And in Jurassic World there's even less. You'll see bits of it. I'll see if I can call out ones that I know are using the newer UI. But like for example, the character portraits are definitely using the old UI because there's very little animation on them besides that little pulse there. Which is just like a very fixed setup of very fixed sort of animation. But I think that panel up there, if we get to use that, that has the newer UI. So yeah, so since we've got an opportunity here, these building sets. So this is the last game that Fusion worked on. I think Knutsford continued to use the system even though Fusion came up with a better one. Hi Dan. Yeah, oh god, it really does, and it feels so slow as well. But the thing is, it feels quite slick. Like it doesn't feel as janky though in some ways. Like it doesn't feel as buggy. Like it feels really easy to mess things up in Ninjago and even in Star Wars. But yeah, there's definitely some dated elements to this game. But I do feel like even the art style actually still works quite well. Even though, like, you could argue if there's much of an evolution in the art between LEGO games, but I do notice it. Like, I think this game does look very nice. Yeah, Luna, that's it. Yeah, it's very clean. And I actually think the simplified UI actually lends into that, because there's just a lot less mess on screen. Like, part of the problem with moving to the new UI setup we had... Yeah, the new UI setup we had basically meant that designers and UI artists went a bit crazy with the UI that was on offer, because we could do all these fancy animations and everything like that. So they just kind of kept so the screen got more and more cluttered. So there is definitely a cleanness to this. So yeah, so these brick piles are using an old system called Spellits, which I believe evolved from the system originally called Buildits, something you could build. So Spellits came about in LEGO Harry Potter to account for the fact that you could, I don't know, the way they animated, and then the multi-build system that was added in Star Wars, known as Choose-Its, was effectively a complete rewrite. Like, they threw out all the old code for building and rewrote it from scratch. And the fact that it looks almost the same, I suppose, is a testament to the job that Matthias did. But yeah, it provided our sort of tech designers a lot more freedom, and also obviously allowed us to have the multiple builds. But yeah, the underlying code for building something that you see in this game compared to Star Wars, even though it looks very similar, is just completely different. Which is cool. Like, it was one of those systems that really was in dire need of an upgrade. Like, it was the original building code that had last had an update in LEGO Harry Potter. So. But yeah, like when you see the button prompts, they're using the old UI, which is just like us rendering a texture to the screen, and the character portraits, all that. That's the same. We replaced as many of these as we could. The sticking point in LEGO Star Wars was the character grid. Basically, we tried creating the global instance of that, and we just blew our entire memory budget. So yeah, it wasn't great. Am I meant to push this? Yeah. Yeah, I'll be interested to see Skywalker Saga when it comes out. I really, it'd be nice to see if it does have a slightly cleaner UI, because again, like, I felt, yeah, Star Wars was very messy. I don't like the LEGO Star Wars UI at all. The base UI
I can't figure that panel out at all.
So, but this is using the new UI. So this is using the, I didn't even pay attention to what it was. Was that up, left, down, or up, down, left? But yeah, so this here is using the newer UI. But the thing is, because of how it's sort of instanced, only one player can use this panel at a time, I believe. So if there was another panel of this type, player 2 wouldn't actually be able to go and access it, because it would sort of basically claim the resource that player 1's using, because there's only one instance in memory at a time of each UI type. So generally, anything that used this sort of the newer UI, you had to make it clear that if you wanted to make it two-player friendly, you had to literally create two separate instances, one for player 1 and one for player 2, and the programmer who set it up had to identify which one to assign to which player. It was maddening. I think Ninjago, they fixed it because they actually assigned more than one person to do the UI. That we had 3 UI programmers on Ninjago, and they were able to actually, they were able to actually go through and fix the main problem. So we had the programmer who'd always been our UI program. He was able to actually go through and fix all the underlying problems with the UI, and then the other programmers were able to actually do the feature work. So, because of, I suppose, for these older games, for the older films that we show,
Velociraptor? No, not Velociraptor.
Yeah, why is it? Dan, why is it aligned to the left? It sort of hadn't
one of
even
the
really
other dig sites has turned up something.
crossed my mind. But yeah, that's a very weird decision. Yeah, so this is one of the games where because the first Jurassic Park film is like 20 years old at the point that this game was being made.
Really?
A lot of the dialogue that was used in cutscenes was literally just ripped straight from the actual movie to varying effect. And to be honest, like that last cutscene, they could have taken the few bits of dialogue Muldoon had. They could have just taken that out, and it would have actually made the whole thing better. Like it's not even a case of where they built the cutscene so in a way that it relied on dialogue. They were able to get by fine without it. So yeah, it's just.
One day I forget to bring scissors.
Again, you almost kind of forget. You almost kind of sort of realize that there wasn't.
Oh, come on! Who tied this rope? What is it? A reef knot?
What is that blue? Okay, so it thinks it's trying to open the character chooser. That is a weird bug.
Just a little further.
But yeah, it feels like this game could have, especially the earlier game, this could have got by without any dialogue.
Was there? I was so close.
Velociraptor?
Yeah, it's good shape, too.
I want partial credit for that.
Yeah, like listen to that. That just
Basically
sounds
mine.
dodgy. It just doesn't sound quite right. Because they've just, they've ripped sort of a mumble from a character. Oh yeah, that was it. I remember that there was a review about this game actually claiming that there was that it was. I don't know if they actually claimed that it was obvious that there were only men in the design department, but it was just like the little decisions they made, how only the women could use all the athletic points, and it was only the women who had the ability to scream.
Is this thing glued in there?
Or to scream in a way that would break, that would shatter,
I'll be extinct by
that
the
would
time I
shatter
get this
glass
thing
and
out.
so on.
Yeah.
It was an interesting take to read from magazine. I mean, it's not wrong. They're not wrong on that front, because the design team at Fusion, for the entire time that I was there, basically until Lego Incredibles came out. So from City Undercover to up to and including Ninjago, the Fusion design team was entirely male, I believe. And believe me, some of the things that have not made it into the game because people told them that is a terrible idea.
Jackhammer? Oh, now we're talking.
Some of those things were obviously come up. It's one of those things where it's it's kind of obvious that
I need some assembly.
having at least having some diversity in the design department would have been useful. Okay, I said this game felt a bit less buggy than the other ones, but I'm starting to take that back a little bit. Some of the
gotta be something sharp around here I can use.
So this level actually was the one that I was always sent to when I was first learning the code base. I think this is one of the ones they sent me to because it had a few examples of that being sort of too busy and full of stuff. So it was like, oh, you can practice some character stuff here. So I think the first thing I did was I gave Alan Grant the ability to basically to fly, and when he flew, I attached the flare VFX. I attached to his hands, so he basically Iron Man'd around the map. And then I think not long after that, I also made it play the scream sound effect as well. So that was my learning experience.
Oh, sure. Do as I say, not as I do. Next time, I'm just bringing a sandblaster.
Six-inch retractable claw, like a razor, on the middle toe.
Raptor claw. It must have been
Dr. Ellie, we're ready to try again.
Dr. Ellie. Why not?
Computers.
Feelings mutual.
Why does she get first named whilst Dr. Grant got surnamed there? It's a bit weird. These Foley sound effects she's making when she's punching. I'm trying to think. Are they someone else? Did we record someone else, or have they tried to like rip some weird bit of audio from the film? Yeah, it sounds like they have, but it sounds like they've sort of tried to take like a sort of half bit of dialogue or some weird grunt that she made at some point in the film. It feels like it would be from the film, because I don't think like a professional voice actor would produce that kind of sound when asked to make a punching grunt sound effect. I'm sure I remember one of the challenges that came with this one is, unlike a lot of the other LEGO games, you know, even though like the Jurassic Park films are pretty action heavy, the characters themselves aren't particularly sort of, you know, action hero characters. You know, they're, you know, Sattler and Grant are just a couple of scientists, so in terms of finding interesting stuff for them to do is actually more of a challenge than one would expect. You know, like, you know, if you're doing a game based on a superhero film, that's easy. You know, you've got superpowers and shit. You know, Star Wars, it's like, okay, it's all about fighting, it's all about war. Ninjago, it's, you know, bloody ninjas. But Jurassic Park, it's like, yeah, dinosaurs are cool, but most of the story is about people being chased by the dinosaurs, or... So yeah, it's a bit... I think that's one of the reasons why this game perhaps got a bit of a... Maybe didn't review as well as some of the others, because it's just not as action-packed as...
I give up. You give it a try. Be careful. That rope's holding up some...
Oh, is it a button bash? It's not as action-packed as other LEGO titles.
Hang on. Delicate equipment. That's it. It was holding up a bunch of delicate equipment. Oh, sorry.
I found a perfectly preserved Compsognathus thigh. Really? No. That's mine. I had chicken legs for lunch.
What's that over there? See, now the nice thing about going back to this game is I have really...
Figured out what's wrong with it.
vague memories of what goes on in this game. I mean, I obviously know the plots of the film, but yeah, in terms of what's actually in the game, I don't remember much. I just remember that film 1 is the best part of the game, probably because it's the best film. At least I remember film 1 being the best one. Oh no, fuck, go away, Mr. DNA. Yeah, that little UI thing there, that's, I think... is that the new UI or is that the old UI? It feels like the old UI.
Oh, yeah, that's much safer. Well, really hard to just balance on it.
Mr. DNA does not look great as a Lego character. The head is just way too creepy.
That's great. Now it looks like the picture in the instructions.
Keep the radar into the ground and the phone down.
What's the fun in that?
That thing looks like a 6-foot turkey.
Dig Site Kid. I'm fairly certain the guy who played that Dig Site Kid has sort of tried to, like, years and years later, tried to, like, totally capitalize on the quote-unquote fame. Like, I'm sure he tried to make a name for himself out of the fact that he appeared for like a few seconds and got shouted at by. Oh wait, no, I can't go in there because Dr. Grant's afraid of the dark. Yeah, he got, tried to basically tried to sort of define his career off the fact that he was the stupid kid in Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park was a solid film. 2 and 3 were okay-ish. World was a film about feelings. No. I mean, I maintain Jurassic Park 1 is my favorite film of all time. It's incredible. I really like 2. I like 2 a lot more than I think it probably deserves credit for. 3's fine. It's doable. Yeah, 4 is. If you look at 4, as like a critique of the process of making blockbuster films, then it's great. But if you try and look at it as like an actual decent film, it's like, and then Fallen Kingdom is appalling.
Never too late to learn something new.
God, look at this guy. It's awful. Yeah. Like, still haven't seen Fallen Kingdom. I mean, I guess maybe go watch it. Like J.A. Bayona is meant to be a genuinely good filmmaker. And I think in terms of cinematic techniques, I think there's some cool stuff going on there, but it's just a really bad film. Because it's basically all the problems of the previous one but amplified. And also the fact that it's just a complete abandonment of any of the themes of the earlier films. Oh, I need a crowbar for that as well. And it just keeps trying to play nostalgia bait with the earlier films. Like, hey, remember Jurassic Park 1? Well, here's a scene here's a sort of shot that looks just like it. Oh yeah. The thing is, though, I think the volcano part is the one bit I'm prepared to give away, because I think even in the original book, they talked about the fact that a lot of the park was powered by geothermal energy from the fact that there was a lot of undersea volcanic activity in the area. I think so. I was prepared to give that bit a pass because I was like, oh, they've sort of talked about that even back during the good films. Okay, only a small character can go in there. I mean, maybe he did just intend to throw money at the volcano. Right. I think I'm probably about ready to call. I mean, unless... No, is there not a vehicle you can bring up here to clean up those bits on the ground? Oh, maybe it's in there.
Who do you think you are?
Oh wow, trying to edit out the who in God's name do you think you are?
Kind of biological preserve. Really spectacular, spared no expense. Our attractions will drive kids out of their minds.
Like honestly,
if I could just persuade you,
why do you need this dialogue?
sign off on the
It's cutting so
I could
much.
get back
It's
on
so
50.
bad.
What kind of park is this?
It's right up your alley.
Okay, cool. I said no music, but it still plays music in the cutscenes. Nice.
So you two, dig up dinosaurs?
Wow.
Try to.
You'll have to get used to Dr. Malcolm. He suffers from a deplorable excess of personality, especially for a mathematician.
Chaotician, actually.
Alright. Cool. Yeah, Fallen Kingdom was, yeah, the CG was just, like, I think one of its biggest problems was the fact that, they were trying to put so much on screen at all times. Like, one of the things that they were bragging about in all the marketing material all the time was there are more dinosaurs on screen than there ever have been. It's like got the most dinosaurs out of any Jurassic Park movie, and it's like, that's not necessarily a good thing. You know, Jurassic Park is the best film in the series, and it has 15 minutes of dinosaurs in a 2 and a bit hour movie. And yeah, they just all looked crap. They destroyed the T-Rex's roar. Like I know that's such a minor point, but I watched it, and when the T-Rex sort of did its big triumphant roar, I was like, that was garbage. What the hell was that? Why would you remove one of the most iconic sounds from the history of this, from the history of cinema? And yeah, the premise it sets up for Jurassic World 3 is just ridiculous. It's like, oh, the whole world is going to be dinosaurs, and it's like, based on what? There's like hardly any. It's... yeah.
Good morning, sirs, madam. Welcome to Jurassic Park. You'll find a vehicle you can take to the
Yes, Luna, there is. There's a scene where a guy goes, the entire third act of the movie is predicated by a character behaving completely irrationally, and goes into a cage with the super smart Velociraptor hybrid dinosaur thing, and yeah, it raises its tail to distract the character, and then looks at the cat, and then basically opens its eye to look at the camera. Yeah, it's in fact, fuck it, let's. I want to show this nightmare. Let's see. This will definitely get me copyright strike, but who cares? Kingdom. Fuck, what's it called? Oh, I'm trying to remember what it's called. Indoraptor. So this guy, they've set this guy up as like a collector of dinosaur teeth. So he shoots a trank in, and then he's like, "Yeah, definitely asleep. I'm gonna go in and get my tooth." Yeah. So there's the little tail to distract him. Yep, just to, you know, give the audience a wee cheeky look. Oh, and again. And then, yeah, the rest of that happens, and basically the entire final act of the film is predicated on this on that nonsense. Like, the entire final act of the film happens because of that scene. It's honestly, it's so. I remember just sitting in the cinema cringing so hard. Like, I already knew, like, at that point the film was kind of too far gone anyway, but, like, goddamn. Yeah, remember when dinosaurs were, like, you know, animals and not cartoon characters? You know, they behaved like animals in films. It's the same with Blue. Blue is like, they decided that the Velociraptor would be, because people love Velociraptors, the Velociraptor would be an actual character. So, despite the fact that even in Jurassic World, Owen barely had control over Blue, and it was more like a sort of a mutual relationship, Blue is will now just help any of the characters deemed as good guys, regardless of how long Blue's known them. It's honestly just, it's so bad, because they don't want the Raptors to be the bad guys anymore. It's so sad looking at what's happened to the Jurassic Park franchise, considering when you consider the fact that the first book was basically a massive criticism on the capitalistic exploit of science for entertainment. The first book is just so anti-capitalist, and it's like John Hammond is an awful human being in the book. Like, I'm glad that he was, you know, Richard Attenborough did a very good job, and I like the film version of Hammond. But in the book, Hammond is an absolute jackass, who is just a greedy moron. Hammond's basically just old man Elon Musk in the book. I do lament. I look back. I mean, I just saw they've released a new trailer for some Jurassic Park
Let's get something straight, John.
TV show.
Investors whom I represent are deeply concerned. 48 hours from now, if they aren't convinced, I'm not convinced. I'll shut you down, John.
That's a different voice actor. That's not the guy who played Gennaro, whoever he is.
Alan, this species of Variformin's been extinct since the Cretaceous period. I mean, this thing isn't this thing.
Yeah. As well. Yeah, the melodic version. Now, I will give credit. I think the animation team did a fantastic job with some of the dinosaurs.
It's a dinosaur.
We're gonna make a fortune with this place.
How fast are they? Well, we clocked the T-Rex at 32 miles an hour.
T-Rex?
Mm-hmm.
You said you've got a T-Rex?
Uh-huh. Say again. We have a T-Rex. Dr. Grant. My dear Dr. Sattler. Welcome to Jurassic Park. How'd you do this? I'll show you.
I'm getting some screen tearing, so I'm going to turn off. I'm going to turn VSync on. I'm sure I already turned it on, but whatever. Options. Honestly, once you've heard that version, it does make it hard to take one of the best scenes of the entire movie seriously, but you gotta try. Oh god, the first film was so good. Like, that's the one thing that made me really happy about playing this game, despite the fact that I think it's for a Lego game, from what I've seen so far, it seems, again, quite well made, but I think the limitations of the material that they're working with, in that Jurassic Park, just even that, you know, if you're making just a film adaptation, I don't think that lends itself very well to a video game as straight film adaptation. So in terms of working there, but just seeing, you know, how beautifully crafted the first film is in Lego form. That's kind of cool. I do like that. I think part of the reason this feels nice is there's not two different times of jump slams. Like, jump slams in Lego games are the worst. The code is awful. I rewrote it for Incredibles to not be awful, and it felt a lot less awful in Incredibles. Because it wasn't thousands of lines of code across 7 different files, it was one file that did the work. And it was easily manageable, it was easily customizable. Like, honestly, it was the old lunge code and double jump slam attack code and double jump slam shockwave code. Just, why was all that necessary? It was so easy. It was so easy. I mean, it ended up just being easier, literally just going and rewriting it from scratch to be like, nope, do it this way. Oh yeah, like, it's over-engineering. It was, like, I don't even think it was necessarily that over-engineered. It was just... It was one of those things where it was obviously written one way, and the older code was just never seemed to be written under the assumption that they might want to expand it later. So, it was just full of dozens and dozens of little edits and additions, and then because Fusion was never allowed to just edit the game mechanics layer, they always had to just add on top of it in some way. So that's why Fusion had to write all these sort of little code components that would try and listen to events broadcast by stuff in the mechanics layer to do stuff on the game layer. And it's like, oh god, this is awful. So yeah, so I just rewrote. It was so easy to do. Like, I had to borrow some of the code that was there in terms of how they, you know, to make it feel the same. But I was able to remove so much gunk. It made animators' lives easier. It made VFX artists. It made every department's life easier. Apart from the fact that they had to get used to a new naming convention, but honestly, it was just... And you could link it into other things. So one of the first things they asked us to do is, oh, can you link this into the homing attack system? And it was like, yep, easy done. A few lines of code and it worked. I wouldn't ever accuse anything of being over-engineered. It was always just badly engineered. In cases like that. I mean, there was over-engineered code. The shooting code and the old fighting code. I mean, we still had to use the old fighting code. I just wrote a load of stuff to sit on top of it and take away most of the nonsense. The shooting code is drastically over-engineered, but I think that's because the programmer who wrote it is a very, very talented programmer. The problem is he was always given ridiculously large tasks, like massive tasks, and virtually no time to do them. And he had to try and encompass everything he thought that would be needed in such a tiny space of time. That yeah, so I think that's just what led to the over-engineering of it. But it meant he was the only person who knew how it worked, which has its advantages. They can't ever get rid of you if no one knows how your code works. I mean, they can, and then they'll realize that they fucked it.
Great, especially if you don't like goats. They do have those creepy, weird eyes.
Do I need to go to the visitor center, straight away to the visitor center, or to the, I think I need to go to, I'm guessing I need to go to the visitor center first, then I'll go see the raptor feeding later.
You'll find a great dino fact just down there.
Oh yeah, the dino facts. I remember these. Mr. Awful Man on the covers. Oh good. Thank God for fast loading. I hated the loading screens. You spent in dev environment. You spent so long fucking staring at them.
Why don't you all sit down?
Just one drop of blood contains billions of strands of DNA, the building blocks of life. 100 million years ago, there were mosquitoes, just like today. Sometimes after biting a dinosaur...
38 minutes to get into the hub on Incredibles? Absolutely not, no.
This is what we call amber. Using sophisticated techniques, Jurassic Park scientists...
Then again, now that I think about it, I think the first time we got Lego City Undercover Remastered compiling, I think it took 40 minutes to compile for Switch. 40 minutes between making a change and getting... That's not counting the loading time to get in, that's literally just the compilation time.
Some kind of control you're attempting is...
30 minutes of that was, like, linking, I think. And I don't understand how you could spend 30 minutes linking, but... whatever.
What species is this? It's a velociraptor.
They're lethal at 8 months, and I do mean lethal. I've hunted most things that can hunt you, but the way these things move, 50, 60 miles per hour if they ever got out in the open. They remember.
All right, let's feed these overgrown lizards then.
Come on, let's go.
These cages aren't going to be big enough.
So, 38 minutes to get into the hub, like, was there a particular reason why it took so long to actually get into the hub in the first place? Like, was it just... was it, like, stuck in some kind of weird loop, or was it just that I just can't fathom what would cause that much of a load time. The hub team suffered a lot on Incredibles. That was, I mean, it was nice to have an actual hub team, I guess. You know, a team dedicated just to that, but... God damn, it did not sound fun sometimes. Oh, I'm just looking at these little vents. I know exactly when this game starts to break. Once you get the compy mode and everything, that fucks everything. Like there's a bunch of compilations on YouTube of some of the bugs that you can exploit using compy mode, which, from my understanding, all the programmers hated the fact that that cheat was added. But I think one of them is you can turn on compy mode as like a Brachiosaurus and use that to get out of the paddock, and it's never meant to be outside of the paddock, and for some reason just something goes really weird with how the camera renders it, and the Brachiosaurus just ends up being 2D. What am I actually meant to be doing?
That's better. Now we just add cap. Isn't that part of the paddock control panel?
Oh, it's no wonder the raptors broke out. This stunning, you know, the paddock control panel is inside the feeding trough for the cow. Quite a nice wee gadget there, actually. The control panel. I like the sort of the little lighting up part of it. I as you complete the puzzle. It's quite nice.
Come on, Daisy. Taking you for a meal. Sorta.
So I assume I just need to ride the cow now.
Fresh beef, huh? Boy, those raptors eat better than I do.
I'm fairly certain even in 1993 it was probably illegal to feed live animals to other animals. I mean, I don't know, maybe the fact that they built this park off the coast of Costa Rica, maybe that's to avoid certain regulations, certain safety and animal cruelty regulations.
My mother, I love her. I have not been racked with such pain as this since I stopped my paw.
A Voyjet crane special.
My injuries are too severe.
There was a programmer at TT who just programmed all the crane controls for all the games. It was just like his thing. I'm not ever really sure why it became his thing, but yeah, because cranes for some reason always needed unique
What are they doing?
code written for them.
Feeding them.
For some reason.
The essence of chaos.
Grandpa!
Kids!
He missed you.
These will be your transports for the afternoon.
John Hammond just smiled as
No driver.
as that man was fed to raptors,
In the middle of the road we're here. Spared no expense.
and then just totally forgot about it because his kids turned up.
Welcome to Jurassic Park.
So, something that's
clear on chaos.
The shorthand is the butterfly effect. A butterfly can flap its wings in Peking and Central Park.
So something that's been done here that I think is quite interesting,
I'm right
and
again.
probably
Nobody
totally,
could
I
predict
imagine
Dr.
totally
Hammond
unintentional.
suddenly
But then
jump
again,
out of
Graham
the
wrote
moving
this, so
vehicle.
it might not have been unintentional. Is that like the film didn't really allude to it as much, but the novel made it really, really clear that whenever Hammond kept saying "spared no expense," that was like the ultimate capitalist lie, and that they cut corners at literally everything. I mean, the whole reason Nedry betrays them is because they refused to pay him when they said you need to do unpaid overtime to fix the system that you broke.
Sure.
And they refused to pay him, which is why he
Seems to happen about every 6 weeks or so.
turned on the company. So they cut costs everywhere. And the fact that throughout this, we keep seeing. Oh, has the game crashed? No, not yet. We keep seeing like the really obvious sort of corner cutting jokes. It's quite nice because they didn't really touch on that as much in the film because they were going with a different angle in the film. They made it a lot more just Nedry is the bad guy in the film, which, fair enough. You don't have as much time to try and establish the much more complex side. Plus, if you're trying, it's an expensive film. Making a film that criticizes the very structures that enabled its creation. Maybe you can't always get away with that. I don't know. Rambling a little. Can I not feed?
Let's see. Rats.
I just done things out of order then.
Is this West Indian lilac?
Yes, we know they're toxic, but the animals don't eat them.
You sure?
Pretty sure.
As a note, if you haven't read the Jurassic Park book, I would highly recommend it. It is genuinely amazing. Again, very different from the film. Like, the film is an adaptation of Jurassic Park in the broad strokes are there, and that's about it. That's definitely not a bad thing. Again, you can almost sympathize with Nedry a little bit, especially as a programmer going into the industry. Because I read Jurassic Park before I got a job in the industry, and you know, you read it and it's like, oh, okay, no, Nedry's situation is pretty much just like, you know, you almost don't blame him. Oh, that Lego flower is really nice. The way it animated out the ground there, that was really cool. Again, there are some really nice, in all, you know, no matter how bad, you know, no matter how, you know, bad a Lego game can get, like, you know, again, looking at the problems with Ninjago, there's always these really nice little things in them, you know. And yeah, that flower animation was one of them. That was lovely.
These are dilated.
We're gonna get something similar here. I think we are. Oh, slightly different, but still very cool. Yeah, man, Lego flowers. Maybe it's just Lego flowers that look awesome. I know that one thing that they had that there were problems with this one is a lot of the dinosaur fights in this game are kind of quick time event driven and using the special move system, which I think partly was born out of the fact that just the fighting system just couldn't handle dinosaurs. And I'm just gonna say, if this game had come out after Incredibles, we could have used the Incredibles hitbox system, and we'd have been able to have full-on dinosaur combat with very little difficulty. God damn it, those animations are nice. Oh, I just need to punch this tree down. Okay.
Never vesicles. It's interesting. It's okay.
I'm impressed, Dr. Sattler. She's looking right as rain again. Speaking of which, we should get back to the visitor center before the storm catches us.
So yeah, like that attack is pretty straightforward, but the actual sort of range in which it can hit people is fairly limited. Like, you can see how it... But just because it's going to just be using... it's most likely just going to be using a locator somewhere on the dinosaur's head as the damage locator, but if we were doing this... although it is hitting both of them, so maybe there is something a bit more clever going on here with the combat. Yeah, well, maybe there is something. Maybe it's not just using the default stuff. But yeah, with the Incredible system, we'd effectively be able to add like a full-blown sort of big sphere to her head. We could add individual ones to each of the horns. We could add one to her tail, to her feet. We could, you know, set up effectively damage points on any part of her body that we wanted. This is... Come on. Can I not destroy... It's cracked Lego. I should be able to destroy that. That is... Okay. That dinosaur is very, very clunky to control. It does not feel... Its turning circles are not great. Yeah, it feels like I should be able to destroy that. Oh, okay, I can. I just have to hold down... Fuck's sakes.
There should be another car parked in the compound northeast of here.
Okay, that feels a bit better.
I don't fancy that dino's chances of balancing on the trunk. We better make another way over for her. right. There isn't a bridge here.
Cool, another flower animation. Let's see what we have this time. Awesome. I really wish I knew who the level artist for who the construction designer for this level was. I don't suppose you know, Dan, who might have been construction designer for this level? Might have been Gav. Okay. Yeah, for viewers who don't know, the way we sort of did levels on on the LEGO games was that each level would have a dedicated construction designer, dedicated level artist, dedicated level director, dedicated programmer, dedicated scripter, and so on. And we'd have like this big sort of spreadsheet of if you wanted to, if you had a question about this level, you could ask this person. It actually facilitated pretty good communication, and it was a nice way to sort of get to know people on the team.
Good as new.
So yeah, because if you spend a long time working with the same people, the same sort of really small group, you got to know them better. It's how I sort of started to get on really well with some of the construction designers, like the ones that I had levels with.
Be someone on duty here to release the ladder to that walkway. But you know, I can't blame them for wanting to get out of this weather. And I guess they took the car with them as well. We better find ourselves a shortcut, Dr. Sattler.
Yeah, I can see this being Gav. I think I had in my head that it might have been that it could have potentially been Callum as well, because Callum does quite nice animations on his props. I'll see if I can complete the first film tonight. Looking at the stream time, like I don't want to go too late. I start my holiday. I'm on holiday this for the next few days. I'm off work tomorrow, Friday, and obviously the weekend. But I need to get up early tomorrow, which is annoying. But funny story, the dung rummage that you just did there, it had to be called dung rummage. You weren't ever allowed in any official communications to refer to it as poo. For some, there were a bunch of weird things that you weren't allowed to do. Like you had, when you talked about the T-Rex in an email, there was a very specific way you had to spell it, I think. And yeah, you had to always just say dung rummage. You couldn't call it anything else, even though the code did not abide to that standard at all. But that code that we use for the dung rummage is the exact same code used for all the water dive stuff in LEGO Star Wars. So when Admiral Akbar can go into water and then he'll rummage and stuff will come flying out. That was literally the dung rummage, but they just said, oh, we want it to be much more generic. So we just went and renamed it all to, I think, just to rummage mechanics instead of dung rummage.
Dr. Sattler, this way. We can get to the visitor center through that hole.
What does the amber brick do? Is that a dinosaur that you unlock?
I told you how many times we needed locking mechanisms on the vehicle doors.
Item 151 on today's glitch list. We have all the problems of a major theme park and a major zoo when the computers aren't even on their feet yet.
And I'm guessing that's not Samuel L. Jackson, because I bet it costs way too much to get his dialogue.
Butterfingers? I'm totally unappreciated in my time. You know anybody who can network 8 connection machines and debug 2 million lines of code for what I bid for this job?
Quiet, all of you.
We're approaching the Tyrannosaur paddock.
Yeah, it's weird, sort of half of these are sound-alikes and the other half are just,
They're no use to us if they don't survive. 1.5 million if you get all 15 species off the island.
7 o'clock, the East Dock.
Yeah, it is a weird. So it's just like Muldoon is a. I mean, I suppose he's not a minor character, is he, in the grand scheme of things? But he's about as significant as Nedry. Muldoon gets his original voice, gets like the original voice actor for Bob Peck. Maybe because Bob Peck is dead, and it was probably maybe like it was easier to get the license off of his estate for cheap. Because even though we're using dialogue from the cut from the movies, presumably there's still a licensing process for all the actors to sort of say, oh yeah, you can or can't use my voice, and Samuel L. Jackson definitely costs a lot of money. Okay, that's cool. That's you unlocking your free play dinosaurs. Oh wow, the viewer count jumped up to 6. Welcome, welcome to the three more viewers. What is with that UI? What is? Why is it half the? Why is it like a massive part of the screen? Oh, is that a thing? Oh yeah, because they're opposite sides of the map, aren't they? Oh wow, the map's pretty cool. Right. So what's the actual jet? I'll just follow this. Yeah, screw it. Let's just advance the plot. It's kind of cool that it actually sticks to the track. It's quite nice.
You'll have to find another way around. There's been a rock slide. Although I guess you can see that.
This is where I need to like go through here.
Hey, a little help here? I was climbing the tree to pet a brachiosaur, but I fell and, well, this happened. Come on, cut me down already.
Yeah, I appreciate. Yeah, it's the whole split party thing.
Let me return the favor. You can use this to bring dinosaurs into the paddock.
Oh yeah, worker in peril. That was a thing, wasn't it? Oh, I had to debug a fucking gnarly ass crash to do with worker in peril. So there's one who's like trapped beneath a block of amber somewhere. So I remember this. I spent like days on this bug, and I wasn't the one to fix it in the end. I think like Tom Matthews ended up looking at the fix. So there was a chance when you could enter a streaming zone, and the worker who's meant to be trapped under a block of amber would just be standing T-pose or A-posing, I guess. Not we didn't use T-poses in Lego Jurassic World. Just standing there A-posing instead, and it was this weird. It was to do with this weird animation set load order. So there was an animation set that had all these various anims, including the peril anim. But in order to save on memory, we tried to avoid loading that if we could help it. So for the workers in peril, we put their animation in another animation set, but it was called the same name. And I think just there was a weird problem when entering the streaming bound where it would get confused and it would try and load the big animation set first. And basically, as a result, it wouldn't load it in time, so the worker wouldn't have an animation to play, and he would just A-pose instead. And it took ages, like digging through, stepping through, basically wait, the second you hit a streaming bound, break pointing, and then stepping through every single animation set that it was trying to load and noting down the order. And then eventually, I think the solution was just, I need to Triceratops for this. I think the solution ended up being, we'll just fuck it, we'll just load the animation set and see what happens. And there were no problems. I mean, there were probably problems on the Wii U, but on the 360, but whatever.
Someone help! They've got me cornered. Somebody!
So this is interesting. The Dilophosaurus are pretty big in this, which means they actually look like they're closer to their real life counterpart size compared, because like the ones in the Dilophosaurus are actually pretty big in real life. Like the Jurassic period was a period of particularly large dinosaurs. Like everything was massive in the Jurassic period. including the Dilophosaurus. But for the film, they decided, I think it was in order to prevent confusion, audience confusion with the Velociraptors, they shrunk the Dilophosaurus down, which is a bit weird considering raptors are actually really small in real life and the Dilophosaurus is huge. Something that was kind of discussed in the book, I think like in the book, the Dilophosaurus are like, you know, over 6 feet tall like they're meant to be. I don't know the exact size, it's been a while since I looked at the, what Dilophosaurus are meant to look like. Ooh, a red brick. Okay, so that's what the blockade was.
Whoa, hey, buddy. You're not getting through here unless you're in a vehicle. Unless you want it.
Oh, okay, so I need to be in a vehicle. So is there a vehicle pad back here? Or will Grant be able to build... Okay, Grant's going to build something that will clear the blockage.
That is just the ticket. Hold on a second.
Oh, Park Worker Gary clipped through the floor there briefly.
Rock 0, Gary 1. Go on ahead. Come on, find a car. This whole island is lousy with them.
Yeah, we've got a car. What are you on about?
I bet you didn't know this.
Well, Jurassic Park's Mosasaurus likes to snack on sharks. That's because the Mosasaurus was actually a lot smaller than was depicted in the film.
Oh, I finished debugging the phones, but the system's gonna be compiling for 18 to 20 minutes, so some of the minor systems, they might go on and off for a while. Anybody want a soda or something?
Like, I'm fairly certain that the Mosasaurus in Jurassic World is, I think it's something like twice the size of the largest ever fossil discovered of a Mosasaurus. It's ridiculous, and like, if you break down the shot, and like the thing is, it changes size in every scene it's ever in. Like, it's always, like, when you look at the scene where it jumps out and eats the shark.
You didn't say the magic word.
Oh god.
I wonder if perhaps you would be good enough to be my match.
Where it jumps out and eats the shark. Like, when you look at the size of its mouth, I think someone extrapolated that, and like based on that, it was like 50 foot long or something. Like, literally the biggest aquatic animal that ever lived based on that one shot. But then when they show like the full body shot, it's like only a little bit bigger than it's meant. It's only like, you know, about, I say only like twice the size or 1.5 times the size it's meant to be. Maybe it was, yeah, maybe it was a baby shark. Yeah, it is weird though. Like, one of my sort of artist friends who's really into his dinosaurs. Like, he did his honors project basically animating dinosaurs. Basically was breaking down all the terrible things about how they depicted the Mosasaurus. Oh nice, they even did the little pupil constriction there. See, there's the roar. That's the good roar. The one in Fallen Kingdom is a little wank. No, that's an Ellie Sattler mechanic. I imagine that pile there being pretty hard to see if you've got even like I don't know, even slightly got any kind of slight vision impairment. It's I imagine it's quite tricky, but I mean that's just TT games in a nutshell. The masters of managing to almost do the anti-accessibility in games sometimes. I mean, again, I'm holding out hope that perhaps Skywalker Saga will address that a little bit and have cool stuff like modern things like accessibility and multi-threading. Because we had plans for it in Ninjago and then in Incredibles and then in Movie 2, and every single time it wasn't the game to implement it in, even though we had a full design spec and people who wanted to put it in. And then we got an independent review done where they said, oh yeah, colorblind players may have a lot of trouble with this, and they shit themselves and were like, quick, we need to make the game colorblind accessible. Because someone who wasn't on the dev team told us so. And it's just one of those things. It's always like the dev team will say we need to do this, and it was always like, nah, we're fine. And then someone else would go, you should probably think about doing this. And then that suddenly became like, oh my god, we have to, the mandate has been made. It's like, fuck off. What are we making here? Oh, cool. More music. Yeah, this animation here that Lex is playing. So this is the same animation that we wanted in the hub world for the trapped worker in peril, but it's part of this massive animation set, and that was the set that we tried to duplicate and move into another one, and then it didn't work. Those struggle sounds that Dr. Grant was making are the ones I think that he makes when Lex is choking him when he's hanging off the wall there. Okay, so now I need to rescue Tim. How do I rescue Tim? Oh, okay, so she needs to shatter that glass, that's why it's glowing blue. Cool mechanic. Got shatter glass with the scream. I'm pretty sure of all the characters who can do it, only one of them is actually justified, and that's Lex.
Ian, freeze! Get
I do feel bad for the audio guys having to try and clip all the trying to clean up all the terrible background noise that will exist inside. That'll be inside that dialogue there. I'll just remove all the noise from 20-year-old audio. Oh yeah, that's it. It's never explained. You know, that is one of the major plot holes of this film. It's so nonsensical. I think we're trying to address it here. So this is where it came from, and you can see we're almost on ground level. But then right next to that is a fucking moat. I think that's the general consensus. I think that's like the only consensus they can think of. But yeah, it's so stupid. That and the fact that the T-Rex manages to just teleport in the finale as well. Oh yeah, that was something else as well. Like making a Jurassic Park film, game based on Jurassic Park, where you can't show people being eaten by dinosaurs. Really, that's also quite a problem. Oh yeah, there's a cutscene. Is it in Jurassic Park 3 when you're back on, or in Jurassic Park 4 maybe even when you're Jurassic World? There's a bit in the where you turn up and all the characters who were killed in Jurassic Park 1 are there, but they've got these big beards because they couldn't get off they didn't escape off the island, and they've just been living there for 20 years. But that's the thing with the LEGO games. It's very difficult nowadays to show that. Like I know there was a huge problem with the. Oh yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's the evolution of what they think is okay for kids now, and I don't know if I think it comes largely from LEGO, because I know that there was a huge problem, and pretty much a huge problem with the Han Solo, Kylo Ren scene in Force Awakens. Spoilers if you haven't seen Force Awakens, I guess. Where LEGO wanted us to play it for jokes. They didn't want to show us killing a character, but Lucas didn't want to leave it open to the idea that he wasn't dead. So it was like this huge fight between like Lucas and LEGO, which basically we had no part on. We were just waiting for them to come to an agreement because of the two completely differing values of the companies in terms of what they wanted out of it. And that's one of the big problems when you're working with other people's IP, especially when you're working with two different companies' IPs that have different end goals for their IP. I mean, they both have the same end goal, which is make all the money in the world, but in the small amount of artistic end goals that the companies have, they butted heads quite a lot. And obviously, you know, Lucas being owned by Disney, one of the worst companies in the world, which loves to have its way with everything. But yeah, you're right. I remember the original LEGO Star Wars. Was more than happy to show characters getting killed. I mean, how does Lego Indiana Jones handle the Ark of the Covenant scene? Out of interest, I don't actually know. I haven't played Lego Indy. Okay, cool. I got the wrong character. Put the wrong character up there. Nice. Oh, I am an idiot. I'm actually an idiot. Wasn't even paying attention to which character was going to get catapulted.
Here, let me give you a hint.
Oh yeah. Ah, I hate it. Lex carries a baseball? Was that in the film? I have a feeling it was in the book. I have a feeling that Lex was a big baseball fan in the book. And in the book, Lex was, so... I'm just trying to think, in the book, the character of Tim in the book was basically split into Lex and Tim in this movie, and the character of Lex in the book was pretty much abandoned for the film. Because she was like, you know, she was really young. She wasn't like, she was like younger than Tim is in the film, I think. And she just spent most of the film crying and complaining. Understandably so. Because, you know, when you're like a 6-year-old or whatever, who's been sort of stranded on an island full of dinosaurs. But Tim was like, I think Tim was interested in computers, but he wasn't like a genius hacker like Lex is. He was just interested in computers and interested in dinosaurs. I mean, the characters are all really different. Like, Alan Grant likes kids in the book because kids like dinosaurs. One of the characters' heads flies off. Cool. Sounds about right. Minifigs to form break up into individual parts. Yeah, see? And the thing is, there are other killing things, and like, you know, in, I'm pretty sure even in Force Awakens, when we do the prologue, Anakin dies in that, like, obviously dies. And, you know, everyone's fine with that. Maybe it's just the way he dies, like, you know, being stabbed through the gut is quite brutal, so... Like, I know we had a lot of worries over the rating we'd get for violence in Ninjago, which is why it was so toned down. And, like, Lego Star Wars, I think, we had to make a bunch of changes to the blaster battles because it was too easy to try and minimize the chance of getting a headshot, which is why like sometimes the characters their helmet will fly off and they'll run away because that was kind of meant to be the sort of a headshot reward or whatever. I don't really know how it works, to be honest. Hayden did most of that. But yeah, that's why the targeting reticule in the blaster battles is this huge box around the entire character. Because originally it was just a little targeting circle on their face, and they weren't keen on the idea of headshotting people with a gun. The joys of kids games.
It's okay. Just give me a hand. The thing about climbing is you never look down.
Okay.
Oh no. Go.
Well, we're back in the car again.
Oh, at least you're out of the tree.
That's, I mean, dialogue aside, that was a pretty fun way of sort of doing that, of handling that cutscene there.
Where's the other car? Alan! Alan!
They just played two different Ian sounds at the same time there.
Can we chance moving him?
Please, chance it.
Oh yeah, we get the chase level now. Or the...
Must go faster.
Oh yeah, what is it? Is this reverse chase? Whatever it is, yeah, the... Come on, just one more. Oh, there's the amber brick that I missed.
Think they'll have that on the tour?
I did remember that, because I remember spending ages going, why the hell can't I find this mini kit? And then I looked up online, it was like, oh yeah, you need to throw flares into the T-Rex's mouth. And I was just like, oh, cool. I was driving the car the whole time.
Remind me to thank John for a lovely weekend.
We will never find the command that Ledger used. He's covered his tracks far too well.
Can't say the magic word. Please!
Can't say the magic word. Shutting down the entire system is the only way to wipe out everything that he did.
See, again, there's little moments here that are really, really good. Specifically the moments without any dialogue, like when Ray Arnold's just hammering away on the keyboard, and, you know, Malcolm doing that little "hey" thing.
On. It worked. The shutdown tripped the circuit breakers. 3 minutes, I can have the power back on in the entire park.
Just to be safe, I want everybody in the emergency bunker until Mr. Arnold returns.
Listen to that background noise. Oh.
Hiring Ned to do was a mistake.
Should have been there by now.
There was absolutely no charisma to that delivery just now. That should have been there by now.
Oh, nice boy. What do you want? What do you want? You want food?
No expense on actors. For a second there, I thought I was gonna have to. I was gonna like play as Nedry, but I think that's a free play bit where you find his broken down car. So I guess the question. Yeah. Oh no. Oh yeah. Split free play. The other half won't actually have anything to do. They'll just be messing around. Come on, drive this. Wait, is this not actually drivable? Garbage. Something else about this game as well is the hints aren't as obnoxious. Like, you get this little hint here that you can hit if you are stuck. But we don't put 10,000 different hints up all the time. Like, Star Wars was bad. And then Ninjago got really bad, because we had those ancient ninja scroll hints that would pop up and just completely interrupt everything. And we were only meant to have 5. And I think we ended up... Yeah, we were meant to have 5 to explain the big 5 or 6 to explain the big stuff. I think the final count is something like 40. It was ridiculous. And they're basically unskippable. In fact, I'm just gonna see, can I turn hints off? No, you could turn them off in Star Wars. I bet if I throw a baseball at that security camera, is it going to say... Oh no, okay. I thought it was going to like say, oh, destroy 5 more or whatever. the one thing that's kind of nice about this is because there's not a lot of enemies so far. I know that the later games, when the compies start turning up, it becomes a pain in the ass. It's a much more chill game to stream as well. Like, you know, Ninjago is basically all action. Incredibles is basically all action. Star Wars is all action, and it's the worst kind of all action because it's badly planned action as well. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to Skywalker Saga purely because it'll be nice to stream a game like on. I'll probably buy it and stream it on launch, I think, and sort of go through giving my like completely unprofessional analysis. Considering I've been out of I don't know anything about the code behind. I don't know anything about what they're using in Skywalker Saga. I didn't touch it at all in my time at TT. All I knew is that it was a thing, and that was about it. So it'll be interesting to see what the end product's like. So I'm gonna guess, do I need Lex to climb up this wall? No? Can seriously Lex not climb that? Huh. Yeah, I'm almost certain that that baseball is a reference to the book, which is nice. Nice to put that in, but I guess if you're scraping for mechanics, then you need to do so. Because yeah, like that's the thing. I think Lex kept wanting to go and like throw a ball around. I think she had like a mitt as well with her. Like she had no interest in coming to the park. She's a kid. She was just like a little kid who liked baseball, and she was like, "No, you're going to go to your granddad's dinosaur zoo." Ooh, does Tim have night? Tim has these night vision things, so. Yeah, no, Lex is the younger one. I can't remember how young. I think in the book, Tim is the same age as he is in the film, but Lex is even younger. It's something like that. And yeah, so Tim is interested in computers and dinosaurs. He's not a hacker, but he likes computers. He likes dinosaurs. And he's generally, and Dr. Grant really likes him. Lex is, I mean, I say she's a whiny brat. She's a whiny brat, but that's because that's what a character of that age would be like. Lex Murphy, book age. This is the film Wikipedia. Where is the book one? Okay, yeah, Lex was about 8 years old in the book, and I think Tim was about 11 or 12, maybe? They were both good characters in the book, and they're both good characters in the film. I do kind of like that they gave Lex a bit more to do in the film than she did in the book, because in the book, because of her character's age, there wasn't really a lot she could do. Besides act as even more of a stake raiser for Grant to protect the kids. But again, the whole dynamic was different because Grant liked kids. Like Grant and Ellie weren't in a relationship in the book either, because Ellie was like a 19-year-old college student and Grant was like a 40-year-old professor. She was one of his students. So their relationship was totally different. It was completely platonic and like platonic lecturer or teacher-student relationship, which is again why, and again Grant cared for Ellie, but again it was a completely different sort of dynamic, and it worked.
Are those meat-eating metosauruses?
Wheeling uniform direction changes, just like a flock of birds evading a predator.
They're flocking this way.
God, another chase level. Can I not play as Alan? Oh, come on, I didn't smash that sign, so it doesn't count as one. And the animation from running through that log meant that I couldn't jump and pick up the, Ah, man. Come on, come on, come on. Nice. Yeah, the characters are all a bit different. Like, Ian Malcolm in the book as well is... I mean, he's not Jeff Goldblum, basically. He's much more, he's basically much more up himself. And he basically just spends the entire book giving monologues whilst sort of slowly dying of his injuries.
Look how it eats.
I'm gonna go now.
Okay. Follow me.
And Dr. Alan Grant had a massive beard as well in the book. He was described as a barrel-chested man of 40 with a huge bushy beard.
Something went wrong.
But you know what? Sam Neill did such a great job, I don't even care.
You can't just stroll down the road.
And Muldoon spends half the book getting drunk as well.
Come on, let's go.
And he blows up a Velociraptor with a rocket launcher, which is pretty based.
Come on, this way.
Mr. Arnold? Mr. Arnold? Mr. Arnold? Mr. Arnold? John, I'm in.
After 20 or 30 feet, you come to a T-junction. Just never follow the main cable. I understand how to read a schematic.
Oh yeah, those two punch animations you get when carrying an item.
Wait a minute.
You know, Muldoon should have a shotgun now, not a dart rifle. So, in this scene in the film, apparently they were actually going to have Ellie discover Mr. Arnold's mutilated body. Like, that was a thing. I can't remember why they cut it, if it was time, or if the body didn't look good enough, or if they were just concerned about the film's rating. But they did have, like, apparently they had a full body sort of prosthetic thing made up. No one knows what's happened to it, but there was just like a full Samuel L. Jackson corpse prop somewhere.
Okay, following the piping.
Okay, I need Muldoon to do that. So... Oh wow, they actually have a really, really dodgy sounding version of Muldoon's death from the film for that. So, here's something I don't get. This sort of mechanic here, this sort of balance thing. Is there any game where this is actually fun? Like, it's in so many games, but is this fun? Just slowing things down, and sometimes having you almost fall off if you don't fucking wiggle the motion controller on the. Like, I mean, I'm genuinely interested to know if anyone thinks that there's an implementation of that that's actually been made a game better. Because you end up just doing this nonsense to get across it faster. Yeah, I can't think of one. Oh yeah, no, the jumping thing is definitely a thing. 2 secs, I just need to regulate a Discord server thing. Sorry, I think a member of a Discord community I'm a mod for has been potentially been hacked. It's hard to know. They posted some garbage, sort of spam-free nonsense. So I was just deleting it and messaging them to check, because I'm pretty sure I've seen them post regularly. So I think their account might just have been.
Wait. Down. Ahead of you is a metal staircase. Go down it.
Okay, yeah. So they're not fun. So they're not fun to set up, and they're not fun to play. So why do I keep including them? It's like the weirdest sort of way of artificially. It's this weird. Oh, we haven't had the player be inconvenient. We haven't had the player have to do something, but it's not even something they do. It's literally just they do what they're already doing, but slower. It exists only to inconvenience, and I just don't understand this designed inconvenience nonsense. Because there's no I mean. There's very rarely any tension because it's so sort of slow and purposeful. You know, at least with, say, you know, bar hopping or something. You know, you can make that sort of disappear, or you can make them think they're on a timer because it's about to collapse, stuff like that. But yeah, with balance beams, I just can't think of a scenario where it's good.
I see the box. Is high voltage?
Billy, you can't throw the main switch by hand. You've got to pump up the primer handle in order to get the charge.
There were quite a few sort of nav things that were always a bit of a pain, and the AI got a bit dodgy with them.
Alright, here I go, okay?
Oh, that's kind of cool. I like this. It's such a it's such a simple sort of animation setup, but it's nice.
Mr. Hammond, I think we're back in business. Oh, Mr. Arnold.
We're being hunted.
Kind of weird as well. I guess maybe because there was too much background noise, where Ellie can't even do like her scream. So the raptor kind of attacked her, and then there was not, and then she was just sort of silent. Bit of a weird choice there. Oh yeah, chat, I'd love the opinion on the setup that I've got going. I know that the game window is obviously now smaller, but I think it creates a nicer sort of setup for the chat box, and I guess in theory it's nice and scalable if I want to add more elements, like if I ever had a camera in the future. Because it's kind of mirrors the speedrunning setup that I've got, except instead of the chat box, I'd have a live split timer. But yeah, always happy to accept some feedback on what I could be doing to improve the streaming experience. Ah, that flower animation, so good. Oh, is this going to be a raptor pounce? Oh, maybe it's still coming. I'm fairly certain there is a raptor pounce or two on here. I remember looking at the code for it when I was asked to set it up for the Rathtar, so the raptor pounce into the Rathtar pounce, and I just had no idea what I was reading. Like Lewis had, he'd worked out a system, but I was just like, oh, this is awful.
All right.
Looking back and my knowledge of how special moves work, it actually wouldn't have been that bad. I think I could have set this up. And then I didn't need to really do any kind of special bespoke setup because Dan just did all the work in script. Because it turns out that the Raptor Pounce just ported quite nicely. Yeah, okay. Maybe I could sort of limit the size, because yeah, I mean, as long as it's a 16:9, that's all that really matters. I'll have a look into that. Again, like, I literally just copied the speedrun setup, which usually works okay, because just seeing the game window isn't sort of as important. But yeah, I'll consider that moving forward and see if I can make more use of the negative space in the screen, because there is room to spare. That scream sound that we took from the film, goddamn, that Muldoon scream. Because yeah, if I was to add more panels, like obviously all I'd do is I would shrink the vertical, I would reduce the vertical height of the chat box basically. That's how I would handle that. So yeah, the game window can kind of grow as much as it needs to, and the chat window can shrink a little bit as well. I don't know if I meant to actually be paying attention to which one she goes to. Oh, okay, I am. I just guessed right twice in a row. That's pretty good, actually.
Run. I've got her.
Oh man, really? See, that's a good gag. Yeah, I remember seeing some of the script for it, but the thing is, the code was mental as well. It was huge. There was so much involved, and I partly blame the special move system being really hard to get your head around at first. Like when I was looking at it for Ninjago, it took me a while to work out what was going on, and then eventually I decided, you know what? I'm just not going to use any of the special move system. I'm going to code it all myself. And that ended up being a lot better. Or, I mean, I still used it, but I didn't rely on the special move system being used for all the triggers and nonsense like that. I did all the heavy lifting I did manually inside the code block for whatever feature required the special move, and it actually was so much easier than trying to add new flags and checks to the special move system. Like, it's a cool idea. I get what they were going for, but again, it's one of those overly engineered systems that, to be honest, it was overly engineered, and it was actually really hard to add anything to it. So it was easier to just all my code ever did was just call start special move and passed in the 2 characters and the name of the special move to use, and then all the other work, sort of manipulating the special move, was done on like animation triggers and stuff that I set up. Can Lex hack this? Oh no, that's 2016 technology in a... Come on. Oh, that's why Tim's waving, because it's a dark room.
Here's another fascinating fact for you.
Hello?
Okay. I'm gonna have to find the others. We'll be back soon. I promise.
Is it? It's a velociraptor.
Can't go that way. Oh, are these Tom's animations? That's awesome. Oh wow, that's pretty cool. Oh, Tim needs to go in there. Even the nice little toe click there. And now Tim just needs to go and push that, push this, and then Lex can get through. There's a nice little subtlety to the tail animations there, actually, on the raptors. Lex can do here. No. Does Tim just need to push that and then the raptor will do its thing? Door lock animation. That's something I've been thinking about as well. So, like on Twitter, I got into an argument. Shocking, I know. With a fan of the typical, a fan of the objective film crowd. The objective analysis film crowd, you know, art can be judged objectively, which is just such a smooth brain take. Anyway, and we were discussing like applying objective criticism to Jurassic Park and how, under that logic, Jurassic Park actually fails in so many aspects. There are so many massive plot holes on which large progression of the story rely on that it's actually quite funny. Oh, am I meant to just... Like the fact that in the film, we see Alan Grant and Ellie Sattler almost fail to hold back the strength of a raptor pushing on the door, yet Lex is able to lock one, push back against it in a freezer. Now I know obviously the floor is a bit slippy, but at the same time, it's the strength of a fully grown dinosaur versus the strength of like a 15-year-old girl. While despite when said dinosaur is then, or a similar dinosaur, because it's obviously a different one, is able to, hold back against both Grant and Sattler. It's ridiculous. And also the fact that Tim doesn't grab the gun for them. Grant's like, Ellie, grab the gun! And Ellie's like, oh, I can't reach it, and Tim's just standing there, pulling his hair out.
We gotta reboot the system first.
Put up the door locks! Ellie, get back! Put up the door lock!
You can't hold it by yourself!
How many times? Oh, they have to reboot the system constantly.
Put up the door locks!
So yeah, like literally, this is a picture-perfect thing. So there's a gun about here in the film, and Lex is here, being a nerd, and Tim is literally just doing that. He's just standing there, just being, the absolutely useless idiot that he is. And it's like, go pick up the fucking gun, you absolute melter. Like, what is going on? So that's a thing. Also, the fact that there's so many things. I was going through it in my head, thinking of all the things that if I wanted to be a smooth-brained, objective film critic, all the things I could find in Jurassic Park. It was almost like a funny exercise to think of. But yeah, it was just kind of. It came off the back of having an argument with an absolute moron on Twitter. It was a very long argument. It was an argument that spanned 2 days of constant replies between me, this person, and someone else who jumped in to sort of side with me. And sort of, I kind of reached the point where I realized what I was having to fight against when he turned around and said that there are no themes in Star Wars Episode 4. At which point I kind of just wanted to, you know, just walk out into the sea and let it take me away. We had a few sort of questions. Like someone asked him if he knew what the film Alien was actually about, and he gave like literally the most basic take ever of it's about an alien, and it's like, oh god. And we kind of it's just one of those things where you realize it's like, you know, you're just like, and I don't blame people necessarily for not being able to for maybe not recognizing the prevalence of themes in media, but it's kind of just like, it's also like though. Yeah, when someone explains it to you, though, you can't then dismiss it as there not being themes just because you didn't realize that there were themes. I don't know. Maybe I'm being a dick on that. I mean, he was very much like it was a very long, not very helpful. It was one of those arguments where you keep going. Yeah, with a shit-eating grin, but this guy was like, you know, dead serious. You know, like, genuinely, there are no themes in films, or there are no themes in good films. Yeah, that's the thing. It's the objective, like, basically, he's a big Mauler fan, which is kind of what the argument, it was, like, off the back of, I think Patricia Taxon had put up, like, a post about Mauler, I think, and, you know, Mauler's typical idiot fans, of which I used to be. I used to be a brainless Mauler fan. Were in the replies. So I saw one who I was like, okay, I saw one of those replies where it's like, this person might be able to be helped in terms of just applying a little bit more critical thinking to what they're saying. So I was like, okay, I'll reach out, I'll make a comment, see how it goes, and then it just turned out, and then by the end of it, I was like, no, this person just literally cannot fathom that kind of just can't process the idea that there's more to film than the story. Like, it's one of those things, it's the objective film crowd it's only about the story sort of thing. You know, the writing is the only thing that matters, which is why I brought up Jurassic Park as a counter, because if you actually dig into the Jurassic Park story's writing, the story is full of plot holes and non-sequiturs. It's full of plot holes that it has to force its way through. And I was trying to make this point that just because you could argue that maybe a film has a plot hole, a plot hole is not an inherently bad thing in a movie, as evidenced by the fact that Jurassic Park's biggest moments are all predicated on them. It was this really long, I've lost the word that I'm looking for. Not very productive discussion. It was funny at the end. It was funny by the end. Like when I said that Star Wars Episode 4 was about the Vietnam War, and he went off on one going, where the fuck did you get the Vietnam War from? So I linked him an article literally where Lucas talks about it being about the Vietnam War, and he's like, oh, well, I didn't see that, and it's just like, fuck, man. Like, I don't know why I do it. It's doom posting. Like, it's the same as doom scrolling. Like, I know that I'm going to end up full of rage, having to dealing with objective film criticism brainlets, but I can't help myself sometimes. then he got very offended when I said that the people, the YouTube channels he watches to get his opinions are all morons, and he got very offended at that and ended the conversation. Because I eventually just got fed up, and yeah, I got fed up and called Moore a moron, and he said, "Oh, by that you're calling me a moron as well," because I'm part of the objective film crowd. And it's like, well, sorry if you're upset. I really wanted to say snowflake, but I felt that would be a bit, because I don't know if Moore's crowd used that phrase or not. Like, that's more of a reactionary thing. But yeah, he just got so mad that I was dissing his favorite YouTuber. Is that a Lex mechanic? I think it might be, yeah. Is that... Oh, wait. Tim hasn't even let Lex down here yet, has she? I need the inanimate carbon rod to do that.
All the files of the whole park. It tells you everything. I gotta find the right file.
Oh god. I forgot that we actually tried to simulate the whatever flight simulator was going on inside. Inside the computers of Jurassic Park.
This might be the right file. This isn't the right file.
What?
What works?
Phone, security systems? You name it, we got it.
Mr. Hammond, the phones are working. Children all right?
Lex and Tim shouldn't
Call the mainland. Tell them to send them helicopters.
So here we go, this bit as well, in the film.
Gonna come through the glass!
So there's that statement that it's going to come through the glass, ignoring the fact that the raptor was able to find its way around to the glass so quickly. Grant shoots the glass twice and then abandons the gun. Which is weird. If he only had two, why the hell did he only have 2 shotgun bullets? If that was all he had. And if he didn't, why did he not sling the gun over his shoulder? And they go to grab the ladder, to put the ladder up. And in that time, the raptor has still not broken through the glass. And it's only when they're all up the ladder, having it already attempted to break through the glass and Grant shot and missed it, does it succeed. But again, this is just if you want to be like a nitpicky asshole that you notice this stuff. And it really doesn't matter, because the film's still incredible. It's just, when you try and break down the objectivist way of looking at these things, suddenly Jurassic Park doesn't look as great as you know it is, which is another reason why I know that the objectivist way of film criticism, it's valid enough if that's how you want to look at films, fair enough, but it's trying to pretend that it's the best way to look at films is ridiculous and incredibly shallow. You know what? That doesn't seem like a safer option, having, you know, forcing the dinosaur's head to be right next to the... But I guess it facilitates this. Oh. Oh well, I just stunned. Are you kidding me? Don't... That is not a good safe zone. Yeah, absolutely, the irony.
Ellie, this way.
I feel like I've somehow managed to skip quite a lot of this level, and I'm not... Like, there was a whole load of athletic stuff to the side there. Or am I about to go do that still? God, this audio mixing is not great. Whatever's triggering the various sort of scared screams here is not having a good time. Oh, okay, I was just meant to tag to the T-Rex, okay. God, this raptor's really taking a beating, isn't it? I have no idea what... I haven't seen that special move prompt in a very long time.
Hammond, after careful consideration, I've decided not to endorse your park.
So have I.
Oh yeah, there's the little cutscene to show Muldoon's still alive. And Gennaro. And we're going to see Nedry in a second. Yeah, so we'll sit through to the end of the credits and then I'll call it at that. 2.5 hours seems pretty good. And it's a nice point to end it at. Finish story. There we go. So this is back in the time when there's enough people there that I won't recognize every name on the credits from the main development team. Potentially. I mean, obviously the leads are all going to be probably mostly the same. Yeah, let's see. Since Warren left, I'm still there. It's actually not as different as I thought it would be. Although a number of these additional folks definitely weren't there anymore. There was a big wave of them being let go, I think, after Star Wars, and it was really shit. There were like 6 of them, and only 2 of them got to keep their jobs. Oh yeah, and I never got patched into the credits. It was something that was discussed as a possibility, but kind of like, because I was too awkward and, as you know, first job junior, to actually ask if I could get patched in, I didn't explicitly say, hey, could you patch me in? So, despite there being two opportunities to do so, it never happened, which is a shame. Because it's my only uncredited role. As far as I'm aware, I think it is my only uncredited role so far in my career. Okay, there's some cinematics names I don't recognize from that list, actually. In sort of the more lead roles. It was Studio Liddell. Were they like an outsource that TT worked with? Oh, okay. Wow. I mean, yeah, the animation workload for this is pretty big, because it's not like the usual lots of minifig animations, there's all the dinosaur shit to do. And there's a lot of it, as well. Okay, that's cool. Dave Ditson, Jazz Pone, James stuff. Mudasir Ahmed, Moody left, I think Dimensions broke him, if I remember correctly. God, that tools programming team that's basically just was completely different by the time I left this company. Okay, I think we can leave it at that. Okay, so that feels like a pretty good place to call it, I think. You know, one film down, 2.5 hours in. Let's just... Where's the save point? Is that a save point, or is that an item swap? Okay, it looks like it's auto-saved. Oh, save an exit anyway. Cool. Right, let's see who's... see who's... Oh, let it skip through that. I should have just exited to Windows. I must admit, it does sound really weird without any music at all, but obviously trying my best to avoid getting screwed. I mean, I don't know if they'll just copy... I'll see. Like, if they claim it anyway because of the little bits of music, then I'll just keep music on next time, because why the hell not? Because I don't think they're going to strike it. They'll just, you know, demonetize it or whatever. Right. So, let's see. Who is streaming just now? Ooh, Retro streaming. Okay, we'll go invade Retro then.